The words hit Dominic like a punch to the gut as he stood frozen outside the bedroom door. "No, Mom. Austin's just my roommate. There's nothing gay about our friendship," his boyfriend of 3 years said calmly into the phone, his voice steady as if the lie came naturally. Dominic's hand trembled on the doorknob, the grocery bags slipping from his fingers and crashing to the floor with a thud that echoed through their Manhattan apartment. Milk spilled across the hardwood, mixing with the scent of fresh bread and the faint trace of Austin's cologne that still lingered in the air from the morning. Austin spun around, his face paling as their eyes met across the room. "I can explain," he stammered, ending the call abruptly. But how could he explain away 3 years of whispered promises in the dark, of "soon I'll tell them, and we'll build a life together"? Dominic felt the floor tilt beneath him, his chest tightening with a pain that went beyond betrayal. This was the man who had held him through tough times at the advertising agency where they first met, the one who promised that family pressure from his conservative Midwest roots wouldn't tear them apart forever. Yet here he was, erasing Dominic as if their love was some dirty secret. "How long were you going to keep lying?" Dominic whispered, his voice breaking. Austin crossed the room in 2 strides, reaching for him, but Dominic stepped back. "It was just to calm her down, Dom. You know how they are, strict Catholics who wouldn't understand. I swear, I'm going to tell them soon. I love you." The word "soon" tasted like ash. How many times had he heard that? Dominic's mind raced back to their first date 3 years ago, when Austin had approached him at the office Christmas party with that charming smile and a glass of champagne. "You look like you could use a friend," Austin had said, and from that moment, the spark was there. They talked for hours about everything and nothing, about dreams of traveling the world together, about the challenges of being gay in a world that still judged. Austin had been the one to make the first move, kissing Dominic under the snow, falling outside the bar later that night. "This is real," he had whispered. "I don't care what anyone thinks." But that was before the family calls started, before the pressure mounted. Dominic remembered the night they moved in together into this very apartment overlooking the Hudson, how Austin had promised, "One day, we'll have a big wedding, invite everyone, no more hiding." Yet that day never came. Instead, there were excuses: "My dad's health is fragile," or "work is too busy right now." Dominic had been patient, understanding, because he loved Austin with every fiber of his being. He had even come out to his own family years ago, facing their initial shock but eventual acceptance, though his sister was the only one who truly supported him fully. Now, standing there with the spilled milk pooling at his feet, Dominic wondered if he had been a fool all along. "Austin, I can't keep doing this. The hiding, the lies. It's eating me alive." Austin's eyes filled with tears, his hands shaking as he pulled Dominic into a hug despite the resistance. "Please, give me one more chance. I'll call him back right now and fix it. I promise." Dominic wanted to believe him the way he always did, but the doubt was growing stronger. They spent the evening talking, Austin recounting how his parents had raised him with traditional values, how coming out could mean losing the family business inheritance or the relationship with his younger siblings. Dominic listened, his heart aching for the man he loved, but also for himself. As they lay in bed that night, Austin's arm around him, Dominic stared at the ceiling, wondering how much longer he could wait. The next morning, Austin left for work early, leaving a note: "I love you more than anything. Soon." Dominic crumpled the note, the word "soon" burning in his mind. He went to the office, where their colleagues knew them as close friends, but nothing more. During lunch with his best friend Ryan, who was openly gay and had been through similar struggles, Dominic poured out the story. Ryan shook his head. "Man, you've been through this cycle too many times. You deserve someone who isn't afraid to stand by you in the light, not just in the shadows." Dominic knew Ryan was right, but the thought of losing Austin was unbearable. The day dragged on, filled with meetings and deadlines, but his mind was elsewhere. That evening, when Austin came home with flowers and a promise to take him to dinner at their favorite Italian place, Dominic tried to push the doubt aside. Over pasta and wine, Austin talked about their future, painting pictures of a house in the suburbs, adopting kids, traveling to Europe. "Just give me until the holidays to tell them," he said, squeezing Dominic's hand under the table. Dominic nodded, but inside, The crack in his heart widened a little more. As they walked home through the busy streets of Manhattan, the city lights glowing around them, Dominic wondered if this time would be different. Little did he know, the real test was just beginning. Dominic couldn't shake the conversation from the night before, even as he sat at his desk the following Monday reviewing campaign layouts for a major client. The fluorescent lights of the advertising agency buzzed overhead, mirroring the constant hum of uncertainty in his chest. Austin had left for his own office in Midtown earlier, kissing Dominic goodbye on the cheek like always. Quick, careful, nothing that would raise eyebrows if anyone walked by. Tonight we'll talk more, Austin had said, but Dominic already knew what that meant. Another round of reassurances that never quite landed. He stared at the screen, the colors blurring as memories flooded in. Their second anniversary had been spent in a quiet cabin upstate because Austin's parents had unexpectedly visited the city that weekend. "We can't risk them seeing us together like that," Austin had explained, and Dominic had agreed, swallowing the disappointment because the love felt worth it. Now, 2 years later, the pattern repeated itself like a broken record. At lunch, Ryan met him at their usual spot, a small cafe near Union Square where the baristas knew them by name but never pried. "You look like hell," Ryan said, sliding a coffee across the table. Dominic sighed, recounting the phone call again in detail, the way Austin's voice had sounded so convincing on the line. "It's not just the lie," Dominic admitted, stirring his drink absently. "It's that every time I think we're moving forward, something pulls him back. His family, his job, the fear. I came out to my parents when I was 24, and yeah, it was rough at first, but they're trying. His parents don't even know I exist beyond the roommate." Ryan leaned forward, his expression serious. "You can't keep carrying this alone, Dom. You're 29, building a career, and you deserve a partner who's all in, not half-hiding." The words stung because they were true. Dominic thought about his own family back in Chicago. His mother who sent careful cards on holidays, his father who still asked if he was seeing anyone nice, never specifying gender. At least they knew. Austin's secrecy felt like a cage closing tighter every month. Back at the apartment that evening, the air felt thick with unspoken tension. Austin cooked pasta again, his go-to peace offering, and they ate on the couch watching a documentary about city architecture. Dominic loved these quiet moments, the way Austin's laugh filled the room. But tonight the silence between them pressed heavy. "I called my mom this afternoon," Austin said suddenly, setting his plate down. Dominic's heart leaped, and Austin hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck. "I told her we're really close friends, that you're like a brother. I didn't want to drop everything at once. It would shock her." The hope that had flickered died instantly. Dominic stood, pacing to the window, overlooking the glittering lights of the financial district. "A brother? That's what I am to you now." Austin followed, wrapping arms around him from behind. "It's temporary, Dom. I swear. Give me the summer. My dad's retiring soon, and once that's settled, I'll do it right. We'll go visit them together." Dominic turned, searching Austin's eyes for the sincerity he desperately wanted to see. He found it, or at least a version of it, and nodded slowly. They spent the night talking about plans, a trip to the Hamptons, maybe adopting a dog, and for a few hours, the promise felt real again. The week passed in a blur of work deadlines and stolen kisses in the elevator of their building. Dominic threw himself into a new campaign for a LGBTQ plus nonprofit, finding ironic solace in the irony of creating ads about authenticity while his own life stayed locked away. One afternoon, his sister called from Chicago. "How's Austin?" she asked, her voice warm. Dominic hesitated, then lied smoothly. "He's good. Busy with work." The guilt gnawed at him afterward. Why was he covering for Austin's fear? That Friday, they attended a gallery opening in Chelsea with a group of colleagues. Austin kept a respectful distance, laughing at jokes, but never touching Dominic's hand the way other couples did. On the subway ride home, Dominic finally spoke. "I saw how you pulled away when Mark asked if we were heading to Fire Island this summer." Austin sighed. "I just don't want rumors at the office. You know how corporate is." Dominic stared at the passing tunnels, the reflection of their faces in the window, looking tired. "I thought we were past that." Austin reached for his hand then, squeezing it tightly. "We are. I promise." The word hung between them like a fragile thread. Dominic wanted to believe it, needed to, but the cracks were spreading faster now. As they walked into the apartment, the city noise fading behind the closed door, Dominic wondered how many more promises it would take before the thread snapped entirely. The weekend arrived with a surprise invitation that Austin accepted without consulting Dominic first. "My parents are flying in for a quick visit," Austin announced over breakfast, his tone casual, as if it were no big deal. Dominic nearly dropped his coffee mug. "Here? To our apartment?" Austin nodded, avoiding eye contact. "Just for the day. They want to see the city, and I thought it'd be easier if they stayed at a hotel. You could be my roommate like always." "It'll be fine." Dominic's stomach twisted. This was the same script they had played before, but after the phone call last week, it felt like salt in an open wound. He wanted to argue, to demand they cancel or at least tell the truth this time, but the pleading look in Austin's eyes stopped him. "Okay," Dominic said quietly. "For you." Austin smiled gratefully and pulled him into a kiss that lingered longer than usual, as if sealing the deal with affection. The rest of the day passed in preparations, hiding photos of them together, rearranging the guest room to look unused, practicing small talk about just friends. Dominic hated every second, but love made him complicit. Sunday came too soon. Austin's parents arrived at the apartment door with suitcases and warm hugs for their son. His mother, a petite woman with sharp eyes, scanned the space immediately. "Nice place you two have here. Must be expensive in Manhattan." His father clapped Dominic on the shoulder. "Good to meet you, son. Austin says you're a great roommate." The word landed like a slap. Dominic forced a smile, shaking hands and offering coffee, while Austin launched into stories about work. The afternoon stretched into dinner at a nearby steakhouse, where conversation flowed around family news and business updates. Dominic sat across from Austin, playing the role perfectly, laughing at jokes, sharing neutral anecdotes about the agency. But under the table, Austin's foot brushed his once, a secret signal that only deepened the ache. Later, back at the apartment, Austin's mother pulled Dominic aside while the others talked sports. "You're such a good influence on Austin. He seems happier since moving here with you." The irony burned. Dominic nodded politely, excusing himself to the bathroom, where he splashed water on his face and stared at his reflection. How long could he keep pretending? That night, after the parents left for their hotel, Austin collapsed on the couch with relief. "See? It went great. They like you." Dominic sat beside him, the weight of the day pressing down. "They like the roommate version of me, not the man who loves their son." Austin pulled him close. "It's progress. I felt them warming up. Next time, I'll ease into it more." Dominic wanted to believe the optimism, but the pattern was wearing him thin. The following week brought more strain at work when a colleague casually asked if Dominic was single, suggesting a setup with her cousin. Austin overheard and later snapped at home, "You didn't say no fast enough." Jealousy flared, leading to their first real argument in months. "How can I when I'm not allowed to be honest about us?" Dominic shot back. Austin apologized quickly, promising again to come out before the holidays. "I mean it this time. I've been thinking about it every day." They reconciled with quiet talks and shared wine on the rooftop, the city skyline twinkling below like distant stars. Dominic felt the connection reignite, but doubt lingered in the corners of his mind. Ryan invited them to a low-key barbecue with other gay friends in Brooklyn the next Saturday. It was the first time in months they could relax without hiding. Laughter filled the backyard as stories flowed, couples holding hands openly. Dominic watched Austin relax, smiling in a way he rarely did around family. "This is what it could be like all the time," Dominic whispered later on the train home. Austin squeezed his hand. "Soon." The word no longer comforted, it warned. Back home, Dominic lay awake, replaying the weekend's events, the parents' visit, the argument, the brief freedom at the barbecue. His mind wandered to his own journey of acceptance, the therapy sessions after college, the friends who had become family when blood relatives struggled. Austin had supported him through all that, yet couldn't extend the same courage outward. The internal conflict grew heavier, a quiet storm building inside. By Monday morning, Dominic made a small decision. He would stop waiting passively. He would talk to Austin again, set a real timeline, and if nothing changed, he would have to consider what life looked like without the man he still loved so deeply. The thought terrified him, but the alternative, endless soon, terrified him more. Tension simmered through the next month like the humid New York summer air that clung to everything. Dominic threw himself into a big project at the agency, designing a campaign for a mental health nonprofit focused on LGBTQ+ youth. The work felt cathartic, each sketch and slogan a silent outlet for the emotions he couldn't voice at home. Austin noticed the distance and tried to bridge it with small gestures, surprise lunches delivered to the office, weekend hikes in the Catskills where they could talk freely under the trees. "I've been reading articles about coming out later in life," Austin said one evening on the trail, sweat glistening on his forehead. "It's never too late. I'm getting there, Dom, really." Dominic wanted to believe the sincerity in his voice, but the pattern had taught him caution. They returned home that night, closer than they had been in weeks, falling asleep tangled together. The city sounds a distant lullaby. Yet cracks appeared again when Austin's sister called unexpectedly. She was visiting New York for a conference and wanted to stay at the apartment. "We can't say no," Austin insisted. "She's family." Dominic agreed reluctantly, and the visit turned into another performance. Austin's sister, bubbly and observant, picked up on the undercurrents immediately. "You two seem really tight," she remarked over breakfast. Austin laughed it off as best buddies, but Dominic saw the flicker of guilt in his eyes. Later, alone with Dominic in the kitchen, she whispered, "Whatever's going on, he cares about you a lot. Just be patient with him." The comment left Dominic reeling. Patient? He had been nothing but patient for years. That night, after she left, the argument resurfaced. "I can't keep pretending in front of everyone important to you," Dominic said, voice rising. Austin paced, running hands through his hair. "It's not forever. My dad mentioned retirement again last week. Once that's done, everything changes." The promise felt thinner than ever, but Dominic let it slide, exhausted by the cycle. Work brought its own complications when a new colleague, a friendly guy named Tyler, started flirting subtly during meetings. Dominic shut it down politely, but Austin overheard one conversation and grew quiet at home. "Do you like talking to him?" he asked over dinner, jealousy lacing his tone. Dominic sighed. "He's just friendly, unlike some people who can't even acknowledge me publicly." The words hung heavy, leading to a long discussion that stretched into the early hours. Austin opened up about his fears, losing his parents' approval, the family business, the life he had pictured since childhood. Dominic listened, heart aching, and they ended the night in each other's arms, reaffirming their love. "I'll make it right," Austin whispered. "I promise." The next weekend, they attended a pride event in the village with Ryan and friends. For once, Austin held Dominic's hand openly among the crowds, the rainbow flags waving above them. It felt liberating, a glimpse of what could be. Dominic's hope flickered brighter. "See, I can do this," Austin said later, kissing him under the fireworks. The moment was perfect, but Dominic knew from experience that perfect moments didn't always last. As August rolled in, Austin's family planned a Labor Day gathering back in Ohio. "You should come as my friend," Austin suggested. Dominic hesitated, but agreed, seeing it as another chance. The trip was booked, tickets purchased, and Dominic prepared himself for more acting. In the days leading up, he confided in Ryan again. "If nothing changes after this, I don't know how much longer I can stay." Ryan hugged him. "You're stronger than you think, Dom. Whatever you decide, I've got your back." The support meant everything. That evening, Austin surprised him with tickets to a Broadway show, their favorite escape. Sitting in the dark theater, hands linked discreetly, Dominic felt the pull of their bond stronger than the doubts. Yet, deep down, he sensed the breaking point approaching. The promises were piling up like unpaid debts, and soon, someone would have to pay the price. The flight to Ohio felt like a journey into the unknown. Dominic stared out the window at the clouds, Austin beside him flipping through a magazine a little too casually. "It'll be fine," Austin reassured as they landed, squeezing his knee. The family home was a sprawling house in a quiet suburb, filled with photos of Austin's childhood. no trace of the life they shared. Dominic was introduced as the roommate from New York, and the weekend unfolded with barbecues, football games, and endless small talk. Austin's father pulled him aside one afternoon. "You're a good influence on my boy. Glad he has a solid friend like you." The words cut deep, but Dominic smiled through it. Nights were the hardest, separate rooms, whispered goodnights in the hallway. On the last evening, during a family dinner, Austin's mother asked about future plans. "Any special someone in your life, Austin?" The table went quiet. Austin hesitated, then said, "Not yet, Mom. Still figuring things out." Dominic's fork clattered against his plate. The betrayal stung sharper than ever. The ride to the airport was silent at first. "I froze," Austin admitted finally. It wasn't the right moment. Dominic stared straight ahead. "It never is." Back in New York, the argument exploded. "I can't do this anymore," Dominic said, voice steady despite the tears. "Every promise breaks. I love you, but I'm losing myself." Austin begged, tears streaming. "Please don't leave. I'll tell them tomorrow. I swear." They talked through the night, Austin outlining a plan, a video call with his parents, then a visit. Dominic agreed to one last chance, but the trust was fractured. Work suffered as Dominic struggled to focus, Tyler noticing and offering support. "If you ever need to talk," he said one day. Dominic declined, but the offer lingered. Weeks later, Austin's family called for an emergency visit. His father had health concerns. Dominic stayed behind, but the distance grew. When Austin returned, he was distant, claiming stress. Then came the work party where colleagues gathered. Austin arrived late and, in front of everyone, introduced Dominic only as my roommate. The room spun. Later, at home, Dominic packed a bag. "I'm staying with Ryan for a while. I need space." Austin pleaded, promising change again, but Dominic walked out into the rainy night, heart shattering, yet strangely lighter. The sacrifice hurt. Leaving the apartment, the shared life, but clarity emerged in the pain. At Ryan's place, Dominic reflected on the years, the love, the growth he had gained despite the hurt. He realized he had been waiting for Austin to choose him, but now he needed to choose himself. The awakening began quietly, a resolve forming amid the tears. Days turned into weeks at Ryan's apartment in Queens. Dominic focused on work, therapy sessions, and rebuilding routines without Austin's constant presence. Calls came daily at first, Austin's voice filled with regret and fresh promises. "I told my sister everything," he said one evening. "She's supportive. It's a start." Dominic listened but kept boundaries firm. "I need time to heal." The separation brought unexpected freedom. He joined a hiking group, explored new neighborhoods, and even dated casually once, though nothing stuck. The city felt brighter, less confined. Austin's messages grew less frequent, the promises fading into silence. Dominic missed him terribly some nights, but the pain no longer defined him. One crisp autumn morning, Austin showed up at his office unannounced. "I came out of my parents' last week," he said, eyes earnest. "It was hard, but I did it. For us." Dominic felt a surge of pride mixed with sadness. They walked to a nearby park, talking honestly for the first time in months. Austin admitted the years of fear, the broken promises, the growth he had finally started. "I understand if it's too late," he said. Dominic looked at the leaves falling around them. "I love you, Austin, but I had to learn to love myself first." They parted with a hug, no final promises, just mutual respect and the possibility of friendship someday. Dominic walked home alone, the weight lifted. He stood on the Brooklyn Bridge at sunset, the same glowing light he once shared with Austin now illuminating his own path forward. The journey had been painful, filled with misunderstandings, family pressures, and sacrifices, but it had forged a stronger version of himself, one who knew his worth and refused to hide anymore. True or false? Holding on to a love filled with endless broken promises is ever worth sacrificing your own happiness and identity?